Welcome to the Raise Your Bars podcast, where it's all about elevating your life one step at a time. With your hosts, Chris Baker and Al Rattan. Together, we're here to guide you through the transformative journey of self-improvement and success. Have you ever wondered what behaviors and actions you need to change to achieve the results and success you desire in life? Well, you're in the right place. Each episode, we dive deep into the strategies, mindset shifts, and practical steps you can take to raise your bars. From personal development to professional growth, Chris and Al share their expertise, experiences, and the occasional tough love, all designed to empower you to reach your full potential. So, whether you're looking to make a big change or simply fine-tune your path to success, grab a seat and let's raise those bars together. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Chris Baker and Al Rattan.
Well, I'm excited because we're back with another edition of the Raise Your Bars podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Chris Baker, who is about to fly to his home country for a few days to visit family and friends. You got to be getting excited about heading back to England for a little bit, eh?
Yes and no.
Yes and
It's
no.
not just, it's not just a family visit, so it's it's
Okay.
not the best seconds to be going back, but it'll still be nice to see family. So
Yeah, fair enough. And well, we're here to do our podcast tonight before you head out of town, and we're on chapter 7 of Chris's book. And if you haven't picked up a copy yet, 10 Steps to Freedom, your 10-step guide to living the life you deserve. And that is, and we're on chapter 7 tonight, which the title of is Sacrifices Are Inevitable. Yep.
they are.
We could stop
And
right there. They are, folks. Sacrifices are
Yeah.
inevitable. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. But no, it's true. And sadly, I think a lot of us get trapped in the fear of having to make that sacrifice to achieve the level of success we want. And that holds us back from achieving that which we want.
It does. Fear is one of those things we talked about recently, and I think in the goal setting workshop we talked about that. And fear is something that does stop us doing things. And I start every chapter with a quote from somebody that I admire, and this quote is from Dave Ramsey, and he says, "The most important decision about your goals is not what you're willing to do in order to achieve them, but what you are willing to give up." And that was one of those things that sort of sat with me, and as I went through this, it's so true, right? Because we talk about resolutions, and really how I think last Friday was Quitter's Day, right, where most people quit their New Year's resolutions, and 80 or 90% were given up by Valentine's Day. And I look at it and I say, that's because people are not prepared to give up something, right? Whatever that is. So, even then I look at myself and I say, okay, if I want to, I want to lose weight, or I want to lose weight, but to do that, I have to give up eating sweets, right?
Right.
Sweet desserts or candy, whatever. And I'm not prepared to do it. And therefore, do I really want to lose weight? No. And am I going to lose weight? No, because I'm not prepared to sacrifice that. So what that means is that thing doesn't mean enough to me for me to sacrifice something that I enjoy, in which case it won't happen.
Right. And I know I feel the exact same way, because when you say that, that's the example of my life. There is my sweet tooth, right? And it is hard. I really believe, sugar is an addictive substance for sure,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
like it is hard to give up the sugar when you enjoy the pleasure it is from eating it, right? And I'll admit, like, so last year I made a decision to give up pop soda.
Yeah.
Coke, specifically Coca-Cola, my favorite
Yeah.
beverage. I decided to give it up. And because of the sugar content, now I switched to Coke Zero, and I know we can go off on all sorts of tangents about artificial sweeteners and all that other stuff. But for me, I gave up Coke, and you know what? And I started walking more, and I started watching or started not eating desserts and not snacking in the evenings. And just by doing those things with no real physical extra exercise besides the steps I was putting in on a daily basis, I lost 17 pounds throughout the
Yeah.
year. I didn't even realize I was losing weight until someone says, "Hey, your face looks thinner." I'm like, "Really?" And I went and pulled out the scale because I never weigh myself. And I looked,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Holy crap, I'm down."
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so that excited me. And actually, that energized me to keep going. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with everybody. I did slip up over the holidays. It's hard not to
Mhm.
when everybody
Right.
hands you candy wherever you go.
Yeah.
But I'm doing better now that we're into January. And I think that's the part of the thing, right? And that's just a simple sacrifice. We could be talking about time. We could be talking about time away from home with your loved ones. Uh it could be a sacrifice of sleep so you could be studying and growing and developing yourself. It could be a financial sacrifice which both
Mhm.
Chris and I made in 2024, some major financial sacrifices to invest in ourselves to help serve our clients more effectively. And you say something in here, you ask a question, and this is the first paragraph of the book. What are you prepared to sacrifice in order to achieve your dream?
Mhm.
And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people, don't know because they haven't really solidified and decided what their dream is, their vision, their why, as you say.
Yep.
Or a lot
Yeah.
of people they know what their dream, their vision, their why is, but they're afraid to take the step in faith towards it because of the potential sacrifices they're going to have to make.
Yeah, and I take it a stage further and say that really you need to be looking forward and not predicting the future, but as you're looking forward to what is your life going to look like as you pursue your dream, what are some of the things that could get in your way, right? And that's that introspective awareness that you've got to be think about and be conscious of what are these things that could get in the way, and then ask yourself, am I prepared to give those things up or to sacrifice those things in order to get right? So I don't know, it could be um look at myself, right? Vicky, we cruise a lot. It's easy for us from Orlando, we cruise a lot. And if I decided I wanted to do something, but it meant I would have to give up that time with Vicky and those cruising with Vicky, I'm not prepared to sacrifice that time, quality time, and therefore I wouldn't pursue that goal.
Right.
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 But if you don't look forward and think about that, you could make a financial investment or a commitment towards a goal and then realize, oh, now I'm in a dilemma because if I do that, I've got to give up this time. I've already invested with it. So, okay, you could then say, well, let me go with that investment. But then what issues does that cause you in your personal life? And
Right.
and so really that planning and the whole thing about this is planning for the future. What does that look like? What does it feel like? And are you prepared to give up things to live that life? And if you're not, that's okay. It's probably not your dream, right? So then revise it and
Exactly.
look and say, what would it
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, I look back to, and I want to caution people here a little bit, Chris, just from my own personal story, is when I was pursuing my career, and I was very, very ambitious, and I
Hmm.
was I was running for the title, I was running for the pay
Yeah,
increase, I was
yeah.
I was running for that because I felt that's what I needed to do. So this is a lot of years ago. This is like, 24 years ago, folks, 24
Hmm.
years ago, really pursuing that dream of mine at the time to be a general manager of a big box retail store in Canada, which I had achieved, and then trying to live up to the expectations that came along with that job.
Yeah.
And the so I made sacrifices then, and they weren't wise sacrifices. And
Right.
now today I have a lot of regret because of those sacrifices. I mean, I've let
Yeah.
it go, and I have a great, like I think I've mentioned this before. I have a great relationship with my kids today. We're like, it's fantastic. They're adults now, so
Hmm.
you you cross that from being the father to a friend almost, right? Even though they still come to you for that parental advice and your wisdom that you hope you can share with them. But I sacrificed time with my kids, missing the hockey games, missing the baseball games, missing the soccer practices, missing their bedtime
Hmm.
because I was pursuing my career. And that still today gives me great sadness that I missed those times.
Yeah. And I share some similar examples in the book, Al, and that's the truth of it, because I wasn't, in my life prior to 2016, when I really stumbled across personal growth. In my life prior to that, I was living from day to day, right? And I was chasing things, and I wasn't thinking about what I truly wanted and what the impact of and consequences of those decisions were going to be. It was like, oh, I'll do that and everything else will be all right. Very naive, right? And unfortunately not uncommon. And this is why, again, part of the reason I wanted to write was to get it out of my head, so I could stop living in that space where I was like beating myself up about it, because you can't change it. But get it out, and then hopefully it would help somebody else avoid those same mistakes or similar mistakes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you do say something in here. You say, it was quoting our mentor, John, but everything worthwhile is uphill. And I mean, we are going to have to make sacrifices, and you may be at a point in your career, in your life, where you do have small children and you are making the sacrifices by working just so you can pay the bills, so you can keep a roof over their head and food on the table, and them in the activities that you are missing out on. And that's what parenting is. I mean, that's what we're not here to have running parenting class or fatherhood class or anything like that, but that's what parenting is, right? We make those sacrifices for our families. However, we have to be very wise in the decisions we're making. I did not need to do and put in as much time as I was putting in. I did not have to do that, but I was young and I was trying to prove myself. And again, so now you live with the pain of the regret from those decisions you made then. But you're right. What do we do today then to become better tomorrow? Right. And I'm very grateful again to repair, I didn't have bad relationships with my kids, but to be able to, I stood up my son's wedding, and in the speech that I was doing, I apologized to him and I said, despite me, you've become this incredible man. Right. And despite my flaws.
Right.
But in here, Chris, he says, if your passion is not strong enough, you're more likely to give up on your dream when faced with making the required sacrifices. And I think that's probably the biggest downfall a lot of people have, is because these sacrifices are necessary. And you also mentioned that it's not necessarily pay once and done. You continually pay the price over and over again. And maybe you can share an example in your life, if you have one that comes to mind right away, or maybe, tell us what brought you to this point of discovery in your life that, hey, you know what? I need to make the sacrifices, and it's not going to be just a pay one and done.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, so I could, you can go back, or I could go back all the way to childhood and say, and again, I talk that in the book at some point in there, talk about the 5-minute wonders that my mum used to call it, right? Where, I'd be fully into something, and then 5 minutes later, well, it wasn't 5 minutes, but maybe 6 months or a year later, I was on to something else, right? And, when I think back about it, it was, I would move on to something else when what I was doing got tough, right? And if it's tough, what that meant is I would have had to sacrifice time and effort and energy to pursue that thing, right? So, whether it was the guitar, whether it was playing the trumpet, being in the brass band that I was in, any of those things. And then I realized again, as I started looking back on it, those were all right, small things in my childhood, but then it went into adulthood, right? And so then it went into things in careers and in personal relationships, and so on. That again, when you had to invest time and energy and commitment into something, right, consistent basis, if the thing that you were investing in didn't mean enough for you, to you, I wasn't prepared to invest it. And so I was like, well, let me move on to the next thing. Right. So it was the shiny object syndrome in a way, right? That we talk about, and
I suffer from.
We all suffer from, right? Because we see something and we think, you know what? that looks really fun. And it looks like I could get that easier than what I'm doing now. So therefore we switch and we go into that thing. But you realize when you get there that actually it's not, it's just nice and shiny, but it's not actually any different from where you were. And if you want to be successful, you've still got to invest time and money and effort into achieving that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, there's certain things that I have invested in time and effort, not necessarily money. So like when I was 2012, and I was looking to progress my Disney leadership career, but I didn't have a degree because in England, when I went into the car industry and stuff, you didn't need it. So I never had a degree. But there are certain jobs at Disney that and certain levels where you need a degree. So I was like, okay, if I want to do that, I have to invest energy and time into a 4-year online program so I could get a degree. Now, I'm in a fortunate position that Disney reimbursed me for the cost of that. So financially, it didn't actually cost me anything than it out claiming it back. So there was the process to do it, but I had to dedicate time to achieving that. Now, I knew if I achieved that, it would help me progress my career. And therefore, I was mentally invested in doing that. So I saw it through. Right. But I also know that we and me individually, you individually have invested in programs that we've paid out money and then maybe haven't even finished them or followed through with the programs because what it was doing didn't necessarily give us what we thought it was going to give, and it wasn't worth the time and the effort or whatever we decided it wasn't worth, and therefore let that go.
And I think a lot of people find that, especially in our industry, we have a lot of people thinking, "Oh, this is the next great thing. This is the one that's going to make me help me make that breakthrough, or get me that 6-figure client,
Right.
or whatever."
Right.
And we're always chasing these things, and good for the people selling them because they're getting rich off of us, but they aren't necessarily giving us the results to what we really need. And I think that's mainly because we're confused on our why. And I think you and I spent a lot of time at the beginning of last year really solidifying who we want to serve, and we've narrowed down that niche now to that, so we aren't chasing all of these different things. And when we do look at something, we look at, is this going to help us move our business forward in the way we are able to serve our clients? And if it is, then we talk about the investment.
Yeah. And that's the reason I talk, and we've talked before about creating that vision, right? Of what do you want your life to look and feel like 15, 20, 30, 40 years in the future, and be as lavish in describing that as possible, and don't think within the limitations of the finances and everything that you've got now, because if you do, you're not going to push for it. But create that, and it's probably somewhere where you're never going to get to, and that's okay, because success is not in the destination, it's in the journey. And that's the other major lesson I've learned in the last eight years or so, right? I always was coming up in the sales environment, the retail, it was always the success is you achieving things, right? You reach your target, you reach your bonus or whatever. Now I know that in life, that is not what success is, right? Those celebrations and check marks along the way are great, right? And the little milestones, you need those, but they should be stepping stones towards the grand vision that is your ideal dream, that journey is what drives you forward. And that's what you invest, whatever it is in, whether it's time, money, energy, focus. And that's the thing that you've got to look at and say, what am I prepared to sacrifice to stay on that journey?
Yeah, and that's good. And we're already at 18 minutes, so I want to spend like the next minute and a half just talking about this, because you say something in here that's so important. And that if we are going to be pursuing our dream, if we're going after this level of success, whatever we choose it to be, if we're discovering our why and living towards that, envisioning what our future is going to be like, it's going to require us to step out of our comfort zone. And I know we've covered comfort zone on these before, but I think it's important to discuss in this particular episode because of the topic we're on. And stepping outside of your comfort zone, or moving outside of your comfort zone, this is scary for a lot of people, as it increases the fear of failure. And we're taught that failure is bad.
Yeah. And again, I'll keep going back again. When you're a child, when you're up to 10, 11 years old, you think that anything is possible, right? Nothing's going to stop you. You've got no fear. If you get knocked down, you get up and you go again, right? And you also have wild imaginations. See, we're born with these wild imaginations, but it's knocked out of us when we get into our teenage years because we're taught play safe, right? Get a safe job. You know, don't do something that is going to fail, because if you do, people are going to laugh at you or look bad at you, and it's good, right? And so we're taught to play it safe. We're taught to be within our comfort zones. Our education system, you know, whatever country you're in, basically teaches you to memorize things so that you can pass a test, right? It doesn't teach you how to think and how to dream and how to think about what you truly want for life and what difference you can make in life. Right. And so we're taught to play safe, but growth only exists outside of your comfort zone.
Yep. And I'll tell you, we've been pushed out of that comfort zone a few times over the last few years, my friend. So I want to wrap up with just a few questions for you as we sort of throw this out to you, the challenge to leave you with. And these are questions right from Chris's book. Again, 10 Steps to Freedom. Go grab a copy. It says, what sacrifices do you anticipate having to make in order to achieve your dreams? And are you prepared to make those sacrifices? And then one other exercise you can do here is, what are the things you're not prepared to sacrifice under any circumstances? This is where it comes to knowing our vision, knowing our values, knowing the values we live by, right? And make a list of 3 to 5 key things that you are not prepared to sacrifice under any circumstances, and keep this list visible. This is important, so you're reminding yourself as things, distractions, stuff comes up. You can look at and wait a minute, that goes against those 3 to 5 things that I said I would not sacrifice no matter what. I need to dismiss that, and I need to move forward in another direction. It's so important to do that, or you will be tossed around and moved with whatever new fad or new wind blows through your community that day. That's the one you will follow, and you will never get, well, I won't say never. It'll be a much longer journey to achieve that level of success that you desire than if you know your values, you stick to them, and you measure everything that comes along against them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be, in honesty, if I could go back to my 16, 17-year-old self, that would be the thing I would tell myself. Identify that, think about that, live by that. And if you know, ifs and buts and all that, but if we could go back and change it, gosh, life would be different, right? But I also feel that, like, you and I have had to go through what we've gone through to get to a point now we can help teach others so they don't have to go through that, right?
Exactly.
I also think if I hadn't gone through those things, I wouldn't be where I am in my life, and professionally and personally, you know, and I'm grateful for being in that position. Again, we shouldn't have to go through all of that to get there. So that's
for sure.
Take that time and learn that, identify those values, live by those values, and don't compromise them.
Absolutely. Okay, for everybody, business owners out there, there's going to be 2 links in the comments for this podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, this video, click both of them, because we're going to give you 2 things for free. The first one is, we want you to unlock the power of goal setting. And we have a BARS Academy, which is a complete year-long sales and leadership training development program. And we're giving away 1 lesson, and that's the lesson on goal setting. We're giving it away. So the link will be in the description for this podcast. So just scroll down whatever podcast platform you're listening to on, or on YouTube. It'll be in the description of the video. Click that link. All you do, name, email address. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to sell your information. You get the goal setting lesson for absolutely free. There's some great worksheets in there for you to use, but a 20-minute video that Chris and I co-taught together. Great content. Go get that for free. The other thing, Chris and I, this will drop on Friday, probably, but on the upcoming Tuesday, then, if you're listening to this new episode, upcoming Tuesday, January 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern time. No, sorry. We're doing it at noon Central, which is 1 p.m. Eastern time, Chris. That might be a conflict. The time went time went backwards there for me when I told you earlier. We are doing a free lunch and learn on some strategic missteps that if businesses make will cost them dearly. So this is a free lunch and learn. You can go to alratan.com/strategy to register for free, and we'd love to have you attend. It'll be on Zoom video conference. Join from wherever you are. 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have an amazing day and take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raise Your Bars podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please consider sharing it with your family, friends, and coworkers. We would sincerely appreciate it.